Welcome back, my Shadowproof family. Hope everybody's doing well. I've been lacking. Actually, I ain't been lacking. I've been dealing with some things, but as always, it's your favorite host, Coach Jose. Your favorite podcast host, Coach Jose, revealing another episode of the Shadowproof Podcast. You already know we uncover the hidden parts of ourselves so we can stand whole, grounded, and unshakable. As always, please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. It helps me out tremendously. It's a big part of, trying to get the word out there. So first of all, as always, I appreciate all my listeners, all you people that listen to my podcast religiously. And I hope you guys take something from it and just greatly appreciate it for humbly, right? I say this very humbly. I want to make sure you guys understand how much I not only appreciate you guys, but appreciate all the likes, all the subscriptions, and let's keep it going. Please share this out to people we know. Just get it out there. So, without further ado, last episode we talked about, avoidance, mask, boundaries, communication. Today I want to talk about what happens when we finally stop running. Let's think about that, right? Right, that's a deep statement right there, right? What happens when we finally stop running? When we turn around, face them shadows, face ourselves, and meet that person staring back at us, right? Could be staring back at us in the mirror. I'm sure, you never really realize this, but sometimes you look in the mirror and you don't even recognize yourself. And maybe you guys have never been through that, but there's been times where I just kind of like I'm going through some things, I'm dealing with situations, and I stare back at myself. I look in the mirror and I look at myself and I'm just like, I just the million things that go through my mind, how I gotta move, how it's like I'm telling myself a million things. You gotta move like this, you gotta show this, just show no, it was always, show no fear, show this, and it wasn't real, it wasn't authentic. I mean, it was real to an extent, but a lot of that was a reality I made up, right? So think about that when we turn around and we actually face ourselves and meet that person that stares back at us in the mirror. So I want to start off with something a little different than I usually do, and I want you guys to marinate and not only marinate on this, but I would really truly appreciate if everybody that listens to this just drops a comment, right, an answer to this question. Right? I mean, I don't care if you post it anonymously. Just give me some feedback on that. When was the last time you looked at yourself? Like truly looked at yourself. Not for appearance, not for performance, but for truth. Like truly looked at yourself and and gave a conscious evaluation of who you are. Think about that. When was the last time you looked at yourself? Not for, oh, I look good, the outfit look good, my hair look good, whatever. But for real shit, right? Looked at yourself for something real. That's what today's about, right? Meeting the man in the mirror, right? And ladies, please don't get offended. It's just, meeting that person in the mirror, right? Because the journey, you guys hear me talk about Shadowproof a lot. Shadowproof, fate, not living in the shadows of the past. But being Shadowproof doesn't start when life changes. It starts when we choose to look within ourselves, when we choose to face those shadows. And when I talk about those shadows are our past self, right? Our hurt self, right? Our broken self. Right. And in order to do that, we have to look within ourselves, right? We have to look within. We have to look deep. You heard me talk about, I don't know if you heard me talk about it, but I think I've said it before, right? We have to intimately look at ourselves, right? Inside ourselves. And that's some deep shit right there. That take a real life self-reflection. And I try to do that. I try to do that periodically, sometimes even daily, depending on what I'm going through. Um, I just went through a real life deep situation. I lost somebody close recently. And honestly, the crazy part about that is that, you know, about 28 years ago, I lost my grandmother, right? And those that know me, like, that was my everything, right? And I'm not gonna get into details on who I lost, what I lost, whatever, because that's not the point, right? The point was I never since that time, right? I was about 18, 19 years old. I never, I don't want to say I never felt empathetic to loss or death, but I felt I felt it, right? I've seen a lot of death in my life. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of people close to me, and it just it never hit the same, right? It was just like, okay, it's part of life, move on. And I don't know if in those spaces, in those times of my life, I felt them. I felt that way because of where my mindset was. Right, my mindset was about I gotta move on, gotta keep grinding. I got shit to do. I got things to accomplish. I can't let this small thing, you know, not small thing. I don't want to sound like that, right? That sounds horrible to say, especially when you lose somebody. But I can't let this affect me. And this time, obviously in a different mindset, obviously different in a different space. I really took it deep. I really took that cut hard, right? I took it hard. Um, and the crazy thing is I never would have thought I would have felt like that. Right. And even now talking about it, it like hits me to the point like, wow, like I really I I've always said, and people that know me that are close to me know that, like, if I got love for you, I got mad love for you, right? That shit ain't fake. I don't like fake shit, right? Like, I'm a straight up dude. I don't like fake shit. And even with everything I've been through, like, I guess I never, I always reserved those feelings only for certain people because I've been trampled on, and I take accountability for my part. So make no mistake, I'm not saying like I'm a victim here. First of all, I hate that word victim because there are people out there that are true victims to certain situations, but I'm not claiming that, right? Like, I got to take accountability for my part in everything I've been through in my life, my decisions, or the way I moved, or the spaces I put myself in. But I saved that feeling, that love, or that deep love, that deep shit for people that I really care about, right? Like, I even in my mind space, even in my mindset that I'm in now, like, you mess with somebody that's that close to me, that's that deep to me, I'll do some crazy things in smiling court. Like, I'm on that type of mindset, right? And I don't ever want to, I hope, God willing, that it don't ever have to ever get to that point. But, I just, that's how deep I feel about that, right? That's how deep I love, right? And when this happened, it was just like, okay. And I was talking myself out of it. Like, I was talking myself out of emotion. I was talking myself out of, feeling any kind of way. And not because I wasn't trying to be empathetic, but I feel like I always got to be the strong person, right? Right. And this time I couldn't. right? This time I truly couldn't be strong, right? And don't get me wrong, I was stronger than I think I still not stronger than anybody, but I think I still took it well, right? Considering like I'm not an overly dramatic person unless I'm sick, and then when I'm sick, like I got a cold or something, it's like the end of the world. But um, I'm not. I didn't get to that point, but it really, really, really hit me hard, and it's crazy because the people that I least expected to see that or even give a shit about that is the people that were right, like not even like my close family, just or people that are with me every day, but more so people outside of that, right? And again, I know I'm being really vague in my comment, but and how I'm speaking, but I'm really reserved, and I take I protect those around me, and I don't really like to I don't I go into detail about myself. I don't like going into detail about others. And I respect and that's respectfully. So I say that to say that no matter where you are in this process, right, of life or 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 your mindset, right? And especially for you men out there, right? And women, you got to hear this too, right? Like just because your man shows this strong person, shows this person on the outside, he has feelings too, right? And he has deep feelings. So anyway, I don't want to squirrel into that. I shared that because I wanted you guys to understand that even where no matter where you are in your mindset, in your journey, you're gonna see a lot of changes, and that's even in your emotions because you're looking at things from a different perspective. So when I say we're looking at things from a different perspective, is just that. How do we look at ourselves in the mirror, right? Because the way I look at myself in the mirror today is not, or look within myself today is not the same way I looked within myself a year ago, 6 months ago, 5 years ago, right? So so think about that, right? So self awareness and self image aren't the same thing. Two different things, right? Self awareness, self image. You hear me talk about self awareness or not? What are you aware of, right? There's an exercise I like to do with my clients, or like friends of mine, people in my men in my men's group. Um, Self awareness. What are we self aware of right now? So how do you figure that out, right? If you were in a room in complete silence and you close your eyes and you just extensively listened and you become aware of the things that are around you, right? Whether it's cars going by, the wind blowing, whatever it is, just consciously think about that. Close your eyes and just think about it. Just listen, right? Listen, listen to yourself. I know that's crazy to say, close your eyes, but be quiet, but listen to yourself. Listen to how your body feels, right? Do that daily, and it's gonna trigger some things, right? You're gonna be more self-aware when you're getting angry, when you're getting emotional, when something bothers you, right? So self-awareness and self-image aren't the same. Self-image is the mask we wear, right? Been talking about masks. Let's get, you know what I'm saying? Is the mask we show the world, right? It's the exterior. Clothes I wear, how I, get my hair cut, how I line up my beard. That's self-image, right? That's what we show exterior to the world, right? That's self-image. Um, Self-awareness, and just to elaborate a little bit more on self-image, self-image is filtered, right? Premeditated. I make this joke like, oh, when I line my beard up, I get a haircut. So that's premeditated, right? Like this is how I want it. This is how I feel good. This is how I feel I look good, right? So it's filtered. It's rehearsed, right? Because it's a story you tell yourself, and for you, it's safe, because you don't have to show the real you, right? But what are we doing when we're not showing our true selves? Are we truly happy in that space? Sometimes we're not. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, there's some places and some situations where we have to be that, right? But we don't have to be that 24 hours a day, right? So how can we be happy in that space? Because it's not authentic, right? So when we talk about self-awareness is raw, right? It's basically what happens when all those filters, all that rehearsal, it's just you who you are in your birthday suit, like people used to say back in the day. It's just this is me, right? This is Jose, right? And that's a hard place to get to, and that's a hard thing to accept for a lot of people, right? Because as men, we don't want to feel right. I hear guys say this all the time, whether it's in my groups or in one-on-ones, where they tell me, if I express these feelings, then how can I express my feelings without sounding like a pussy? Excuse my language. I don't mean to say it to you like that, but think about that. Like, that's their feeling. They're feeling that if I express my feelings, how can I word this or communicate? You guys hear me talk about be careful how you communicate. Or you're responsible for what you say. You're not responsible for how people interpret, but we're responsible for making sure they understand. So when we say this, when I say this to you, they have to basically rehearse on how to say. They're asking me how to give them a script on how to say this without sounding like a punk, which we're still on the self-image. You're not creating self-awareness because you're not being your authentic self. You're not sharing your feelings. So how can we expect a person to understand us authentically if we're not sharing authentically? Right? Because we have to sound a certain way. Oh, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that, instead of saying you're offending me by talking like that, or you're upsetting me, or you're hurting me. Right? That's crazy. We're still rehearsing. So we still subconsciously fall back into that space, right? There was a time in my life, and this is legitimately, when I thought awareness meant perfection, right? That if I could just figure myself out, I'll stop messing up. I'll stop messing things up. If I could just figure myself out. How can I figure myself out if I'm not self-aware of who I am? Right? That's not how growth works. Right? That's not. Awareness isn't about fixing, it's about facing. It's the first act of courage. It's the first act of being raw and real, raw and uncut. You hear me talking about that, being raw and uncut. Right? So when I think about this, I remember many times, in my life when maybe someone says something that just cut really deep, right? The phrase, the statement, the whatever they said, just it cut me deep, right? And when we think about that, a lot of times when we're arguing with somebody, either we do that, right? They say something cuts deep, we cut deep. We feel like we got to say something to cut deep. We got to one up. We got to cut deeper, right? Because we get defensive, right? And that's what happened in those cases for me, is I got defensive. See, I'm the type of person, I could be having a conversation, an argument or something, and somebody will say nothing, and I may not catch it right at the moment, but later on, my mind it's crazy, because I don't know if I've ever shared this with you guys, but the only time I listen to music is on my motorcycle. When I'm in my truck, I don't listen to music. I'm just when I'm traveling or whatever. If I'm driving, I don't listen to music. I like quiet. I like to think, and I'll replay entire conversations in my head. Right? I'll replay these conversations, and when I replay these conversations, I pick up on little things, and then I start overanalyzing. Right. And then I'm like, did they really say this? And I'm the type of person, I gotta address it right away. I'm not the type of person who likes to leave things for later. I was not the type of person that didn't like to leave things for later. So you get defensive. And then later on, I'm not even going to say later on, in today, in my mindset in today, I realized that the offensive thing that they said that I took offensive to, or something that they said that cut so deep, wasn't about what they said, but it was more so about how it held a mirror up to me, to a part of me, to see something I hadn't owned yet. I hadn't taken accountability of yet. And that reflection of that very situation or that very thing, it cut me deep. It stung. Right. And I want to be clear, like, I'm not saying like that's always the case. You know, people have their perceptions of who we are based off what we've shown or what somebody has told them. But there are times when we get offended at the truth. Right. We get offended at what's told to us because that's a part we haven't taken accountability of yet, which is part of looking at yourself in the mirror and creating that self-awareness. You have to take accountability for who you've become. You weren't born this way, right? There's a lot of things that have transpired throughout your life, from your upbringing, from situations that you've been in your life, from things that you've done or been through that have created this person that you are, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying for you to be disappointed in who you are, but growth, but that self-awareness hurts first. It hurts because we haven't owned that. That's a reflection. Think about sitting there and having a conversation with you, right? With yourself. That sting, that pain, that cut, that's an invitation to take accountability and take that and use it for growth, to use that to grow. Right? Because sometimes it's not it's not what a person says. If a person's saying, you know, I tell people all the time, have conversations, some conversations are gonna hurt. Right. But you have to be willing to accept that whether the person's perception of whatever that is their perception. It could be accurate. It could be maybe they misunderstand it, but that's how they feel. We can't minimize that. We got to accept that, take accountability, and say, okay, I could see how you see it that way, or maybe, okay, I don't understand why you feel that way, but let me explain to you. Let me communicate. That's communication. That's dialogue. And we're gonna get more into the dialogue. Like, I have a lot of books I've read, a book I'm reading, books I've read, and talks about dialogue and the in-depth of dialogue. And we're gonna talk about deeper communication and all that. But the moral of the story is you have to take accountability, and that's self-awareness, right? Because that self-awareness is gonna hurt. You have to accept that, right? So when you look at reflection, right? You look in the mirror, that's a reflection. Shadow reflection, right? Your shadow isn't evil. It's not a demon, right? It's just everything you've rejected, everything you've denied, and everything you've buried, disowned. The jealousy that you hide, the fear that you cover with this fake confidence, because it's not really confidence, right? The fear that you cover up, the anger you justify with passion. You know how many times I did that in my life? That I speak loud and I speak angry because I'm passionate about it. And I have that problem. Like, when I'm passionate, when I'm passionate about something, I speak. I elevate my voice. I speak. It almost. I can't tell you countless times when people tell me like, "Hey, whoa, relax." Like, and I'm not even angry. I'm just speaking passionately, but I'm not realizing that I'm communicating. I'm showing anger, and I'm just passionate about this topic. I'm just passionate about this. I have to take accountability for that, and I work on that. Right, speaking more calmly, being more attentive, right? We justify anger with passion, and it's not. It's anger. So we're not doing that. So when we talk about reflection, most of us spend years avoiding reflection. Most of us spend years avoiding looking at ourselves in the mirror and figuring out our true selves and facing ourselves in the mirror. The things we judge in others often reveal the things we haven't healed in ourselves. Oof, that's deep right there. The things we judge in others often reveal the things we haven't healed in ourselves. That's deep. Ask yourself this: who triggers you? What about them triggers you? What situations in your life are you repeating? What part of you feels unseen or misunderstood? Those are your mirrors right there, right? That's why we look in the mirror. We use that self reflection, that shadow reflection. You know, I always got to put shadow in something, right? It's about that closing your eyes and really thinking about looking at just like I'm gonna say that again. I'm gonna repeat those questions. Who triggers you? Why do they trigger you? What situations do you keep repeating? And what part of you feels unseen or misunderstood? The only one that could define that, the only one that could say that, the only one that could figure that out is you. Those are your mirrors. And it could be more than that. Obviously, you know, for the sake of the podcast, you know, that's a whole not for this, not for this space, I guess. Those are your mirrors, right? So reflect for a second. Take a breath. Think of one person lately that challenges you and irritates you. Just lately. Now ask, what are they showing me about myself that I need to acknowledge? And you have to keep it real with yourself. You have to keep it real with yourself. That right there is shadow work. That is exactly your shadow. That's the mirror. That's the shadow at work. Not to shame you, not for you to feel disappointed, but to wake you up, to create that self-awareness, right? That's something that if you don't know, how can you work on it, right? You hear me talk about if somebody doesn't really truly hear your authentic communication, how can they authentically adapt or adjust, right? I have had conversations with many of people in my life, even some close to me, where I feel like I'm expressing my feelings, I'm expressing how I feel, I'm showing you, and then I really think about those conversations and am I really being authentic? Or am I being abrasive because I'm using passion? I'm confusing passion. I'm confusing anger for passion. I'm not really explaining to them how I feel. I'm not really authentically telling them how I feel because in many times in my life I felt like vulnerability was a weakness. I'm not going to be weak to anybody. I'm not going to be that person because I'm this guy. Right? I don't I don't know how to be. I don't like ego. I really have trouble. You know, I have some close friends of mine that just have their ego is just is big, and sometimes it takes me out of whack. Doesn't mean I love them any less. Doesn't mean I treat them any less. It just bothers me, right? Because but I got to realize that Darren, I used to be that same person. It's the mirror that I see, right? That it still needs to be fixed because I fall in that space sometimes on who I am, right? Who I feel I am, rather, right? So remember, that shadow, that mirror at work is creating self-awareness, and it's not to shame you. It's not to to make you feel bad. It's to real just wake you up. something to work on. We got to start somewhere. We can't keep continuing doing the same. You hear me? You can probably hear me say this all the time. Can't do the same thing over and over and expect a different outcome. I know that's the definition of insanity. I know, but think about that. You want something different, you got to do different, right? So when we talk about tools for that inner clarity, let's go deeper. Let's go even deeper into the practice of self-awareness in real life, in your daily life. Pause, right? Pause, quiet, right? Taking a moment for self-care, right? Self-care. Start with 1 hour a week, right? I don't want to hear people it's saying, I'm too busy, the kids, the this, the that. You have an hour. You have an hour. Oh, start with an hour a week, right? Pause. When you feel triggered, pause. Notice when you pause, when you feel triggered, notice the story your mind is telling you. It's self-awareness. This situation, this person is triggering me. So instead of reacting compulsively, pause. Notice the story that your mind is telling you at that moment and ask yourself, is it about now? Is it about right now? Is this trigger about this moment right now? Or is it about something older? About something, a scar that hasn't, a cut that hasn't healed? That single pause is going to turn your reaction into reflection. I'm going to say that again for you. That single pause, ask yourself, I'm triggered. Is this about now or is this about something old from the past? And that single breath can turn that reaction into reflection. And you could move forward differently, right? When we talk about the stop method, I do anger management. The stop method, stop, take a deep breath, observe, process, and proceed. That's that pause, right? Pause. I'm pausing. I'm stopping. I'm taking a deep breath. I'm asking myself, is this about right now or is this about, what is this, right? The first question I'm going to ask myself, all right, let's start over. I'm triggered. I stop, right? Pause. I ask myself, what is triggering me? What's the story my mind's telling me? The initial question is, what is the story my mind's telling me right now? And is this story about right now? Or is this story about something in the past that's triggering this feeling, triggering this emotion? And now we got time to flip that reaction into reflection, and we could process and proceed because we are observing, right? We took that, we stopped, we paused, we stopped. We took a deep breath. We observed. We're asking this question. And now I can process and proceed. Now, that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes we don't have that time because the person, and it's where we set the boundary. Hey, give me some time to think about this. Give me some time to react. Right now, I just can't think straight. And I don't want to react abrasively. So let's talk about this later. Do you mind if we could do that? Right? Setting a boundary and standing on it, right? So you have time to reflect and you have time to educatedly and respectfully and calmly continue to process and proceed, right? Then there's this thing called mirror journal. Write down moments when someone annoyed you or inspired you. And I want you to do that. I want you to do that this week, right? Write down some moments someone annoyed you or inspired you, then ask, what part of me does this reflect? Now you start noticing, right? This is all work on self-awareness, that shadow reflection, right? Patterns will start to appear. Now that's awareness forming muscle. That's your awareness working out and building muscle. Think about that, right? We're actually working on ourselves, and that's the self-care part. Taking time to work on ourselves without letting the everyday day to day making excuses of the day to day. I don't have time, right? And you have, and then we become we understand how to become self-aware. What are you right? Self-awareness. What are you aware of right now in your space? What are you aware of what's inside you? Self-awareness equals self-control. You can't control what others do, but you can control your actions. Instead, you're thinking your way out of a situation instead of acting your way out. But you're also creating that shadow reflection on things you need to work on. Nothing's going to get fixed in your life until you work on yourself. And I'm here to tell you that that's 100%. I stand on that. I stand on that statement. Nothing is going to be fixed in your life until you work on yourself. I don't care if you go to church every Sunday. That doesn't make you a full-fledged Christian. What are you taking from that? What are you doing from that? Are you spreading the word? I'm not saying, I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying, what are you doing in your life that reflects you as a Christian? Because going to church is not the only thing. Hearing the word is not the only thing. Reading the Bible is not the only thing, right? So it's just like going to school. To take it off the religious aspect of it, if you go into school, just going to college is not a thing. You got to study. You got to learn. You can't bank information, which is what most people do. We bank information. Banking information is basically you learning something. You're not learning anything. You're memorizing in order to pass a test or be able to repeat it. But are you teaching yourself? Are you living that? Are you understanding what the class teaches you? Are you really grasping that concept? Self-awareness, self-reflection. I'm in school right now at 46 years old, again, and I'm more in tune than I was when I was in high school. So I just wanted to move on, which is what most kids do. Just want to get out of school, live their life until they realize that reality slaps them in the face, right? Anyway, continue, right? So every week, I want you guys to do this. Every week, ask yourself, what truth about myself did I resist this week? Don't judge it. Don't be embarrassed about it. But what truth about myself did I resist this week? Don't judge it. Name it. And when you name it, it's power. Because that's a step into self-awareness, the shadow reflection. So I want you guys to work on that, right? So I want to repeat when I said in the beginning. I want to just go back into what I said in the beginning. What I asked in the beginning was, I really, really would appreciate if you guys just shoot a comment and put this response in the chat. And you don't have to get too in detail, right? When was the last time you looked at yourself? Not for appearance, not for performance, but for truth. So I want to, before I go into the closing of this, I really wanted to repeat that. And please throw it in the chat. Let's talk about it. So closing reflection. The goal of self-awareness isn't, I want to emphasize this. It's not to be perfect. Perfection is not reality, right? We're looking for growth. It's to be present. It's to see yourself clearly and still choose compassion. Because being shadowproof, and listen, I really stand behind that slogan, shadowproof, right? Being shadowproof means you stop hiding from yourself. You stop hiding from your shadows. You're okay with looking at that real, authentic person in the mirror, right? You start hiding stuff. Realizing that strength isn't about armor. It's about alignment. Being aligned with yourself. Being aligned with your mind and who you are. So your reflection this week is, what truth will I face in the mirror today? What truth will I face in the mirror today? So, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's been, it's been a couple weeks since I posted. Like I said, I was dealing with some things, and I really, I know I said I was going to drop an episode every week, but life gets ahead of me, and I like to make time for my self-reflection, for my self-care, and but I'm still here, and I'm always going to be here for you guys. So with that, we had our first week of our men's group this week. It was awesome. If you're interested in joining, hit me up. If you know me, hit my number, hit my line. If you're just listening, email me at coachjose79@gmail.com. I'd love to, I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to, reach out to you. You could send me a direct message, or however you want to do it. Let's keep moving. Let's keep growing, right? And if this episode spoke to you, just like all my episodes, please, I can't emphasize this enough. Share, please like this episode. Please, while you're listening, just please do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps the episode grow. It helps the algorithm thing. Share it with a brother, friend, or that version of you from 5 years ago. Right? And if you want to go deeper, connect with me. Like I said, I am the owner and founder of Fortify Within coaching, and in the Shadowproof community. We have the community here on YouTube, but you can listen to this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, as well as iHeart. However, whatever's easier for you. Until next time, my people, keep facing your shadows, keep walking your truth, and keep working on becoming shadowproof. Much love. Talk to you guys soon.